Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, March 11, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Gwyn Lurie, Executive Editor-in-Chief, high-ranking sheriff of the Montecito Journal, Josh Molina, International Man of Mystery, and the Joe Rogan of Santa Barbara, and Ryan P. Cruz, not to be confused with Ryan Q. Cruz, of the
Or Tom Cruise.
No,
Or
I've never
Tom.
been confused with Tom. Penelope, maybe.
Oh, all right. We'll start with COVID. The good news: lowest hospitalization rate since late summer. Of course, we are nationally approaching 1 million deaths from COVID. And who would have thought that? And it's just amazing how we've all grown inured to that. 660 in the county. But basically all signs are still good, although there is a little concern being raised about a new variant called Delta Cron, the recombinant virus of the Delta and the Omicron. So if you're not vaccinated, please do get vaccinated. We believe in vaccines here on Newsmakers. But interesting, Josh, that 2 years ago, really the first concrete sign that local government was reacting to the pandemic was the cancellation of cruise ship arrivals here, and the city council this week gave the go-ahead, I guess, for cruise ships to return.
Yeah, it was a little weird. The fix was in. The council didn't even need to vote to approve this. Apparently, this was all done administratively ahead of time, and the waterfront department decided to take it to the council for, I guess, just posterity, just to kind of let people know we're doing this. But nobody was really that skeptical. Kristen Sneddon raised some environmental concerns, but there was no leader to say, hey, maybe this is a little bit too soon. Instead, they kept hammering, oh, we need it for the economic impact. We need it because it brings in, $3-4 million a year in various taxes, and we need it, and it's time, and it's over, and the CDC says this, and the governor says this, and everybody says this, and it's sort of typical government. They're always like, well, if they say it's okay, then we say it's okay, so we're good. And then they just kind of follow like dominoes. I think that among the public, there are some concerns that it might be a little too soon. We had tourism before. We had cruise ships coming into Santa Barbara.
People coming in from airports all over the place.
Yeah, people know how to get here, and they make it sound like this is the savior of State Street or something like that. So for somebody who's observing this, it seems like it's a rubber stamp kind of thing.
Yeah.
They already have, I think, 17 planned. First one's coming next week.
Yeah. And Ryan, what are there regulations about it? Are the people coming off the cruise ships in those little water taxis, are they going to be vaccinated? Do we know?
Yeah, there's a CDC COVID-19 program, and all cruise ships have to adhere to that, and all the captains have to actually sign an agreement with the city, and that's also some ecological things where they can't discharge waste within 12 miles, I think, something like that. Another interesting part is the shuttle service. So this is coming on next week. The shuttle service is going to be through Santa Barbara Airbus and not MTD, which is going to be a change, and they still have to figure out how they're going to route people around. If it's going to be big buses, or they're going to be small buses, we don't really know about that yet. So that's going to be another aspect, which, like Josh said, they approved the contract. So, I mean, I guess it's a go. It was very informational item. There wasn't a vote or anything about it. And yeah, so, I mean, I guess it's
Nick,
coming back.
I mean, it was only a few weeks ago, it seems like, maybe it was a month or so. Nick was on talking about cruise ships coming back, and it seemed like a really bad idea at that time. So, I mean, everybody's obviously eager, Gwyn, to get back to real life, and it would be fine. So I guess, we're in the endemic stage where we're going to learn to live with COVID. You comfortable with the cruise ships coming in, Gwyn?
I am personally comfortable with it.
You are?
I
Wow.
am. I mean, I think people come here all over the world all the time. People who live here have houses everywhere and they're traveling back and forth. I think, I think for tourism and everything else, I think it's probably I think it's honestly kind of a random place to draw the line, in my opinion.
All right. Okay.
And I would just add on that. Yeah, it's a random place to draw the line. Why do it? Why not wait? Why not pause? Why push for it then? We don't know. And that's been the whole story of this pandemic. We always think, oh,
It's
we beat
over.
it. We turned the corner. We flattened the curve. All of a sudden, we're shutting down again. And so I think that's one issue. I think the other issue is just transparency on the city council. There was no way the council was like not going to approve that thing. And they're
So
ready
who
to
was
go.
the decision maker? The waterfront?
Mike Wiltshire, the waterfront director, I mean, they before the meeting, they issued a list of all of the cruise ships that are coming with dates. So I don't think they can really, I mean, obviously, if there's something breaks out, they can stop it. And of
So
course,
obviously Rebecca Bjork, the new city administrator, had orchestrated this, huh?
Yeah, it does seem like that they had it kind of ready, and it's kind of at this place where if we don't go forward with this, we're out $500,000, and if we're out those $500,000, we're going to up the harbor slips, we're going to up the parking fees more. So which one do you guys want? That's what it kind of felt like.
Listen, I don't think this is a good idea just for economic reasons. I think that one of the biggest problems since the pandemic is consistency. And so it's like, suddenly it's like the kids aren't wearing masks, people can travel anywhere. It's like, but you can't come in off a cruise ship. No, it just seems, that's why I use the word random. Like, I think that's always been the problem, is that it's very hard to tell whether these regulations are put into place for financial reasons. It's kind of hard to separate it out.
Another big story in the city this week, the police department. Now, all of the officers on patrol are going to be wearing body cameras, correct, Ryan? Is that how?
Yeah, that's what they said. So it started last July, I believe. And they started with a test run. And I mean, this has been going on since Cam Sanchez in 2015. He bought a couple cameras and he was pushing for that. Lori Luna, of course, kind of pushed it a little bit farther. And now since December, they've been implementing them for everybody. So they said all field officers have them, and most other sworn officers. So I'm not sure if the detectives walking around are having them, but all field officers, and they have to have them for every interaction. So we'll see. I know we have had a lot of places around the country where they have that. You have to record also, but we've seen a lot of times where those are off, and really kind of important situations where we're like, we don't know where's the video from that. So we're going to see how this rolls out, but it's definitely a long time coming and bringing us into where we're supposed to be in the present.
Well, it's, one thing I noted in your story was that basically the video itself will be in the possession of the police department. And I wonder how that's going to align or not with the new police review commission or the citizen review commission. Are they going to have access to all that? And I can't say. I know the commission is circulating their proposal, and I don't know if that issue is or is not addressed in there.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either, but that's definitely going to be a whole other point of that, because we know that there was the whole thing about should police officers or should family members, or if you're married or significant other as a police officer, should be involved in that. And now they're definitely going to want to know, is this going to be public? Can we ask for it? Is it going to be a hard process where they're going to deny it every time you ask for this? So that remains to be seen.
Yeah. All right. The Montecito Journal this week, Gwyn, as we know, there is no longer anything that can realistically be described as wildfire season. It's just kind of all the time. And your paper's reporting that the state insurance commissioner has some new protections against or for homeowners in terms of their insurance if they harden their protection and so on. Is that, have I got that right?
Yeah, you've got it right. I mean, it's been a problem since the Thomas fire for a lot of families. Haven't even been able to afford to have insurance. And I think that Kevin Taylor said best. I think he said that, rewarding homeowners and businesses for, wild safety actions, that not only will it help people be able to afford their insurance, but it will help them protect families against death and destruction from fires.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and it is, and you're right, there is no fire season anymore.
yeah.
It's around.
And the other thing, I hope this is okay, but I know you've been associated with a resiliency group in Montecito, and I understand that group is about to receive an award, a big award of some sort. Am I letting the cat out of the bag here?
Well, it's a piece that's being written by ACE reporter Jerry Ross for next week's newspaper. But yes, there's a foundation, a national foundation called Ready Communities Partnership. And they are awarding us this Resilient Community Award. And it's being delivered by General Russell Andre, which is sort of a.
He's kind of a big deal. Yeah, he was in leading the charge in Katrina.
Well, he was in Korea. He was in, but yes, in Katrina as well.
All right, and then one other thing I want to ask you about. We're now told there's not going to be any sound barriers in the 101 project and the widening there. How is that playing in Montecito?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The sound barriers for the 101 project?
That was a joke. That was a
sound barrier joke.
What? Huh?
It went over Jerry's head.
What'd she say? Went right over my head.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble hearing you anyway, so it's okay.
I guess that the hydraulic modeling that with the barrier walls, that there would be significant flood rise, which could create, in any major weather event, and that could be a big problem, Caltrans and for the community. So they are lowering and getting rid of, in most cases, the sound walls, which residents are having a big problem. A lot of houses are just off the freeway, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that was, Josh, you've written about the 101. I mean, that was always in the plan, was it not? That there was going to be sound barriers?
Yeah, it was in the plan. And sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi, but probably my Wi-Fi. But yeah, that was in the plan. And then they had this sort of a decision at this meeting. What was it, a month ago, where they were going to say we can't do this for, I guess, flood purposes, or if there's another debris flow. But I think some property owners can apply for money to be able to do some individual repairs at their home, or not repairs, but prevention. So there's something in there. The 101's like very confusing to me. There's so many moving parts, and it's hard to keep track of all of it. And it seems as though it's going to get better one day. They don't have funding for everything. They're constantly raising funds, and I don't know. So a lot of congestion, but
DOS has
someday it'll be better.
DOS is formally requesting data from Caltrans to present to flood control, so they can, assess whether this is really necessary.
Okay, the record will show there was a reference to DOS, which I let pass. Okay. That
doesn't count. You didn't let it pass. You didn't pass the derogatory.
You brought it up, yeah.
That it's Friday, March 11th, which is the deadline for registering to run in the June primary and November election. Boy, it looks like a pretty snoozy election season. There's one more week, I guess, if there's no incumbent running. So that would be the second district supervisor's race and the DA's race. But Ryan, you were at Mike Stoker's announcement today, huh? He's going to run against Greg Hart for assembly.
Yeah, he's throwing his name in the ring against Greg Hart for that assembly. He was there at the courthouse today, and he's going to be up in Santa Maria. He had two announcements. Brooks Firestone is co-chair of his campaign, along with Jordan Cunningham. And he said he ran some polls, some district polls and said that he was favored 10 to 20%. I asked him afterwards about details. He said, I don't get into micro details, but I'm favored in the issues.
How big were the, is that part of the micro details? We're not
That's what
getting
I asked him, and I said it was a statewide, and he's like, I'm running for district, so it's not statewide. So I'm not sure the details of the poll, but
Yeah, and the other question is, what were the questions that were at? If you knew Greg Hart was a mass murderer, would you vote for him or Mike Stoker? Josh, Mike Stoker has been around, well, let's just say a long time, and he was on the Board of Supervisors back in the 90s before Ryan was born, I think. And he's run for multiple things. He was also the deputy EPA director for Donald Trump. I imagine that's going to get him a lot of votes in this new assembly district, which is basically Santa Barbara County, correct?
Yeah, his name is very well known, so he's formidable simply because of that. Many people from name ID, he's going to get lots of votes. He's not going to beat Greg Hart. Greg Hart has got more money. He started sooner. He's much more connected. And Stoker has there's a reputation that comes with Mike Stoker, and you can read the LA Times stories on his time at the EPA. And, I think for a lot of people, perspective, his time has come and gone in terms of being in that kind of high level role in politics. He ran against Doss Williams for assembly, and obviously Doss Williams won. That being said, he's a formidable name. And really what this means is Jerry, I'm going to steal your thing here a little bit because we were talking offline about this. It's bad news for Gabe Escobedo because Stoker is going to make a runoff with Greg Hart, and those two will battle it out. And Gabe was not going to win before. He's definitely not going to make it through the primary.
No, but he did hope that he would finish second in the primary and be able to have a one-on-one. Go ahead.
But it's not that hard to finish second out of two, right?
Right. But then, then you do have the advantage of, kind of having a spotlight on a one-on-one race. And as we know from the last assembly race, that the Republican candidate, no matter who it is going to get, 35 to 40.
Yeah, and it did seem that Mike Stoker was a little bit more serious than the last candidate.
Charles Cole,
Yeah. Charles Cole was there also, his father, Thomas Cole.
Well, Mike Stoker is not Charles Cole. Mike Stoker is smart. He knows the issues. He's connected. He knows the stuff that's happening. Yeah. But I just feel like, and I think the Greg Hart campaign is not concerned about Stoker getting in. The Dem Party is not concerned about Stoker getting in. It does mean they're going to have to work and raise more money. But just like when we were talking about Santa Barbara mayor's race, like, you knew Randy was going to win. You knew James was not going to win, although James was going to do well. You knew Kathy wasn't going to win. And we know Greg Hart is probably, most likely, going to win this district.
Josh, is there any way mathematically that Gabe and Greg could split the vote?
Well, I don't know if Gabe's gonna stay in. I don't know, but I don't think they'll split the vote to the point where Stoker wins outright in June. I don't think it's that much.
Yeah. Well, someone we know is going to win apparently is Laura Capps in the 2nd district supervisor's race. Gwyn, what do you see Laura's impact being? How would she be different than Greg in terms of issues like, I don't know, cannabis?
Other than she won't always vote with Doss.
Yeah, well, that would be a start. And I wonder on the cannabis issue as well, whether she'll have a more skeptical view than the rest of them.
I think Laura is a smart, level-headed person. And I don't think she wants to be known as the cannabis candidate. I think she never even intended to run on that last time. I think she was backed by a number of people who were really unhappy about the policy on cannabis that kind of just slipped in. And she got a lot of support, but I don't think she sees herself in any way as a one subject candidate.
Well,
I
you
do
know
think
what?
though that on that front, there's a lot of opportunity for her in certain cases to team up with Joan and their friend from the north, who, that certainly create a different dynamic on the board.
Yeah, well, and the other thing she did do when she ran against Doss is she sort of pivoted from the cannabis thing to a ethics in government and campaign finance reform, and so it'd be
It was all
interesting to
kind
see
of tied up in the same thing, right?
if she carries that into office. And then we have, I guess, Josh, a Republican running against Salud in the 24th congressional district.
Yeah, an individual by the name of Michelle Westlander Clade made an announcement this week that she would be challenging. I don't know a lot about her, but she's going to be running, and it's just very hard. I think it's very hard for anyone to unseat an incumbent, and it's very hard to unseat an incumbent who has
Well, and the
that much money.
reapportionment of the 24th has made it more democratic than it already was. Ryan, you checked out Ms. Quade's website, which is interesting, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I heard about it from Stoker's event today. A few people told me that she had announced, and yeah, checked out her website. She has a lot of accolades. I guess she's a physicist, worked for the CIA. Definitely maybe worth checking out, but just like Josh says, it's really hard to she doesn't have a name. It's really hard to challenge
And I just think the Republican brand has been so damaged.
It's definitely taken. I mean, even from the Larry Elder, I remember that rally. There's still a strong kind of Republican base in Santa Barbara, but they are not as strong as some of the other rallies that you go to.
Yeah.
Aren't you
And then
not supposed to tell people if you worked for the CIA?
I guess it said it on her
You have
site.
that on your website now.
Yeah, I looked at her LinkedIn page, and I know Ryan is going to go line by line and check the bio that she got up there. It's kind of interesting. Not since Jason Dominguez have we seen someone with such an impressive resume. And then Josh, you had Joyce Dudley on your podcast this week. And the fellow she's endorsed, her assistant DA, still has no opposition. There's 5 more days for somebody to file, but it looks like he's just going to walk into that. What's his name again? I forget.
Oh, John Savernock.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah. Yeah, so we both had Joyce Dudley on the podcast. So I encourage everyone to watch both of them because they're very different, and we ask different.
Which do you think they should
questions.
watch first, Josh?
Well, mine is shorter.
By what, a
So
minute?
Jerry's is an appetizer. Josh's is a real meal, or what?
Yeah, so she did a pretty good job of sort
Josh
of
asked
waiting.
all the questions about why she didn't let more people out of jail. That's what.
And you asked about, well, no, I'm not gonna say
Go
that.
ahead.
No spoilers.
She did a very good job of waiting until the last minute or close to the last minute to announce that she wasn't running and sort of handpick her successor. That's politics. That's smart, I guess. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to challenge.
Well, the interesting thing to me is you confronted her on that, and you said, gee, this looks like the fix is in, and she's like, oh no, there's no gambling going on here. I mean, it was just, I kind of didn't buy it. All right, so that's going to be a pretty snoozy election season, I think, for a while. We do have the school board to look forward to. They're going to be running by district for the first time, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to shake out, because you also have the added complication of Laura if she runs for supervisor, then she will presumably resign at the end of the year, which would leave an opening for whatever the new school board is to appoint someone.
Maybe Laura should resign now. I mean,
Huh?
maybe Laura should resign now so that we can have an election for that seat. Laura's going to win. No one is going to
But
challenge
she
her.
would have to resign the day before file ended, right? To give someone else an opportunity or a couple of days.
She would have to. Yeah, it's probably not gonna happen. Josh, you scooped on parking rates are gonna be going up apparently, huh?
Oh, we're acknowledging one of my scoops this week for the first.
Well, Nick's not here, so he's
Oh,
off
okay.
getting another scoop.
Yes, Downtown Parking Committee met on Thursday and they're proposing, and the staff is proposing to increase rates to park downtown $1. And so, I mean, that sounds insignificant, but obviously incrementally that adds up. And there's some concern by the businesses. But I think for the most part, there's a feeling that this revenue will help, will go to downtown. It will help with services downtown. It will help with cleaning downtown and infrastructure downtown.
Is that the way it works, that the parking revenues are directed toward State Street or toward downtown business?
That's what they said.
Earmark?
Yes, that's what they said, that the portion of that will go toward cleaning downtown and making downtown attractive for people to come. So there's a lot of stuff going on. They moved to automated license readers. They've laid off kiosk workers, and they have a deficit, obviously, because fewer people were shopping and coming downtown during the pandemic. So they're looking to raise rates. They haven't raised them since 2006. So if you stay past your, an hour past your free period, you're going to be paying $3.
I don't get my
$2.50.
I don't get my free 75 minutes anymore.
I think
It's
you
a
still get
3-year
that.
It's a 3-year plan. You're going to get a free 75 minutes, but if you go past that, you're going to pay
250 instead
$2.50
of 150.
instead of $1.50.
Oh,
And then in 3 years, you're going to lose 75 minutes. The plan is you're going to only have 60 minutes to go downtown and do whatever you do.
Oh no, that's not enough time.
Hey, Gwyn, that reminds me, whatever happened, the city council approved a business, a special business district for Coast Village Road. Is there anything going on with that? Or is that
Well,
just?
yeah, I mean, they need, hey, Tim Buckley happens to be here. Do you want to talk the details of that? They need to get a certain amount of, here, I'm gonna swing this over.
Cameo.
I believe, although I didn't prep for
Hi,
this. But
Tim.
hey, how's it going? I believe the next step is to get 30% of the vote. And then it opens up to a general vote where we have to get 50% of the vote.
Oh.
I think it has to, in order to get on the ballot, I believe.
Oh, so it's still, okay, so it's still in process. Nobody's benefiting from it yet.
No, to my knowledge, though, the largest landowners on Coast Village Road are supporting it.
Are supporting, all right, okay. Hey, Ryan, about a month.
I think Tim's reading Michelle Westlander's campaign.
Oh, he is, huh? Is that who you're going to endorse over there at the Montecito Journal, you think?
That was a little inside joke.
I see a lot of letters flying. Ryan, about a month after I arrived in Santa Barbara in 2002, the jury decided that David Attias was insane, and I did a 96-point head that said Attias insane on the front page, and was accused of being a tabloid editor. But apparently this week a judge has decided that he's still insane.
Yeah, you could do that. You could reprint that headline again. I mean, it was definitely an interesting case, very unique that somebody would be ruled insane, guilty of saying do their time.
Of course, we should remind people who may have forgot mowed down a crowd with his car and IV.
And five people died as a result from that, 4 right away, and then 1 a couple of years later. And the first case I've ever heard about where somebody's kind of going through their program and deciding, I'm done with my program. I'm sane. I feel like I'm sane, and I'm going to petition for that, because the Conrad program has a tiered level of care system, and he'd kind of been stuck around those medium levels of care, and he can't seem to break through to that. And that's what the judge ended up saying in his ruling and writing that. The same thing that the Conrep, because a lot of the Maggie Charles brought up a lot of the Conrep physicians and therapists that worked with him, and they all double down on that. He has, and I'll admit to that, sitting in the room with him, he did have a different, I don't know what he was like back then, but he didn't seem like somebody who would kill 5 people right now. But that being said, from everything I heard in the court, I think the judge's ruling was perfect, and that he does have a little bit more time and a little bit more things of dealing with stressors and accountability that will really make him ready for this free 100% don't get drug tested, don't have to report type of life. And to be honest, there's people that have done lesser crimes that have to adhere to stronger probation things. He's free he went to late night music raves. He went to World Series games. He went to Lakers games. As long as he requested 2 weeks before, they let him go wherever he needed to go.
All right. And Josh, you had a piece on some local, as we close, just got about a minute. Folks who are raising funds for Ukraine, for Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah, there's a Ukrainian family. They run Abundant Care, is the name of the assisted living homes in Santa Barbara for senior citizens. And Timothy Pryko is a Ukrainian. They're Ukrainians, and they're raising money. I was over there while they had a bunch of kids over, school children, making cards and sending them back to Ukrainian orphans. It was a compelling story because they've got people on the ground, and you can sort of hear all of the stories. We hear it in the media, we watch it in the media, to hear people who know people on the ground, to know about people with disabilities who can't flee, senior citizens who can't flee, parents who are shot and murdered, and the kids are left behind. And so the stories about that, but also about raising fund. And they have their people on the ground who are getting shelter, blankets and beds and clothes and materials to them. So another part of the sadness of that Ukrainian war story.
Yeah, and Gwyn, you're associated closely with Human Rights Watch, and they're active in what's happening in Ukraine now as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of researchers on the ground who are documenting what they're calling war crimes against, for light of the military attacks against civilians. So they're trying to collect, that information for possible future prosecution.
Yeah. All right.
But Jerry, I did hear something very interesting this morning, where there was someone, I don't remember who it was, some ambassador who was saying that don't call it a no-fly zone, because that's of course the question every day: do you support a no-fly zone? And he said, I just don't want you to call it a no-fly zone anymore. Call it a declaration of war, and then think about it that way, which I thought was kind of an interesting.
Right. Well, that's exactly what it is, and Putin's waving around nukes, and it's just, I don't know. I don't recall a more dangerous situation for the world since the Cuban Missile Crisis, which you two are both too young to remember. But
we have history books, Jerry.
Hey, I don't know where you're looking. Am I included in the you two?
You three. Sorry. All right, that'll do it for another edition of Newsmakers. Thank you so much, Gwyn Lurie, Josh Molina, Ryan P. Cruz. We will see you next time on Newsmakers. And Henry.